Hello, everyone, and welcome. I want to start off this afternoon by thanking Nancy Whitenack and Danette Dufalo for facilitating this conversation today, and to Jordan Stricker for recording it. I'm Andrea Tosten. I'm an artist and a calligrapher and a bookbinder, and I want to thank Heyd for including me in this. I just feel so fortunate to be a part of this trio today. And I'll go ahead and I'll introduce two of my kindred spirits, starting with Estelle Voisin. Excuse my French attempt there. But she holds a PhD in art history. She is an adjunct professor at the University of Dallas. She's a Jill of all trades at Pendry's World of Chilies and Spices. And she studied at the Sorbonne in Paris. And of course, Heyd Fontenot. Oh my goodness, a multi-interdisciplinary artist who has exhibited nationally and internationally. No, just playing. An art director, curator, producer, designer, painter, podcaster, which I'll have to listen to Artist Talk Movies with Aaron Stafford and Heyd Fontenot. Great talks on there.
Andrea's in episode 4.
And of course, as we sit here in color, pattern, or propaganda, I'll just go ahead and get into the talk here. I'll start us off. James Baldwin said that the responsibility of an artist is to show us that we can be better than we are, to be ourselves so that others can fully be themselves. Also to shake things up and keep them being shaken up so that we don't get complacent with the way things are. And also, I listened to a podcast not too long ago, Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso, and on there, visual artist Toyin Ojih Odutola, she said, to present the world as it should be turns people off, but to present the world as it could be, that's sexy. And I think we can look around and see what's happening here. And so that being said, I would like us to get into a discussion starting off about social art practice, or art as social practice. And either one of you can start us off.
Yeah, if you wanna, if you feel prepared. I mean, I can,
Well, I'm just gonna set the tone. I don't know if this is an exact answer to your question, but so Andrea and I both had the great privilege of posing for Heyd, and so I'll start with that, just a little anecdote. So I met him at UTD. We were walking to the parking lot, and as we walked to the parking lot, I told him I like to draw nudes. He told me that's what he draws. I should look at his work. And then he turned around and he said, "You should pose for me." And I said, "Tell me when." So then I showed up, got naked for 3 hours or so. We talked about, mostly sex, I think, is what we talked about while I was naked in front of him. You took hundreds of pictures or something. I don't know how many pictures you take.
Hundreds, yeah.
And then we had a show at Conduit, and I had no idea if he had chosen any image of what he chose, and I walked into the show, and I saw these images of all of his friends and all these magnificent people, these souls that I know because Heyd paints his friends, and he paints souls. We can go back to that in a little bit. Yes. But when I saw the image, one of the two he took, I was stunned, and my now ex-husband looked at it, and he said, "That's you. That's you. He got you." And I remember thinking, I have been made love to well for the first time. So, I don't know. So thank you.
My pleasure.
So I don't know if that answers the question of social practice.
It does. It does. It's definitely part of it. And I really share what you expressed there. When I sat for Heyd, I remember, oh my gosh, we just had the best time. We laughed a lot, and I did a little karaoke. I sang a little "Been Around the World," Lisa Stanfield. And yeah, that really gets into it, because a part of art as social practice, that element of connecting with your community, continuing that cycle of love, but also having that subversive element, just seemingly effortlessly going through your work and showing us that what we could be, what the world could be.
I wanted to say with Estelle's recount is that, you can talk about sex without it being sexually provocative.
Right.
And it's such a deep subject, and I feel like it's relegated to like after hours, and like kids can't be around, but sex is in every element. I mean, I feel like just try to bring up a sexually neutral subject, and like we conceptualize it, because it's in every bit of engineering and design, and just so it's inescapable. But I think it's really important to, of course, like consensual is a term that is. Sorry, I'm breaking down. Like sex and sexual subject matter does not have to be vulgar. It doesn't have to be off-putting. It doesn't have to frighten people or make them uncomfortable. But there is an element of being uncomfortable that is also a place where you grow. Like if there was no tension in what we're talking about, what we're seeing, what we're investigating. Well, okay, we all agree, let's go home. Nothing to see here.
Well, you've talked about your use of not being so precise with the proportions, and kind of distorting in some ways and emphasizing in other ways.
Mistakes.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and bringing forth what you're talking about there, not emphasizing what could be over-sexualized, but allowing a holistic intaking of the humanity of someone, and you can see that. Yeah,
because I feel like the American psyche often, I'll just speak for a continent, is that compartmentalizes sexual content, and to integrate it is really powerful.
I want to jump in there, because that's what I want
Ta-da.
to speak about. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was actually in Conduit Gallery that I had this awakening, or this knowing of, it was actually wrapping pieces of Tucker's work, so the artist that's in the other room. And it was, and I was, because there's such a poetry and a delicacy about him, and I got quiet, and I saw it. And so when I was wrapping his pieces, I was thinking about all the love I was putting into wrapping the glassine. Thank you, Danette, for reminding me the word. And I thought, I feel like I'm making love because I'm pouring. There's all my care, all my attention. It's not attention. There's a word I'm looking, like my intent.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your work, and I was one of my students at UD did a work on Sheila, and I was thinking, why is his work so shocking when we've got porn all over the place? But his work, people are like, okay, I can't see. And I feel that although your lines are beautiful, and they're not disturbing like Sheila's lines are. But what's disturbing about your work is the intimacy of it. And that's where the lovemaking in my how I choose that vocabulary, or the eros, which is that I see eros as that creative energy, and so that's where the strength of your work, and that's the provocation of your work. And I think the fact that you also use a certain silliness about it, you're cloaking it, you're making it, yes, what could be, but at the same time, if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, we see through that, and that's the strength of your work.
Yeah, thank you. I like your liberal use of making love, like when you're doing something with intention, when you care about something, and again, like the compartmentalizing, sorry, I'm gonna do this a lot, I think. I kind of lose my place.
Take your time.
Yeah, but there is a power to even caring about something, and in like like how everything sort of comes and goes quickly with social media, and I don't want to say disposable, but it doesn't have a lot of texture, it doesn't have a lot of staying power. And to sit with someone and to really look at something or really discuss something, really have feelings about something instead of just like ironically like something or it's really like you're showing your hand if you can tell people what it is you care about. And I'm not being snarky.
No, you have a wonderful sense of humor that comes forth in the work, and that allows for the social practice to be coming through without being, this is how it should be.
Right.
This is how you have to do it. But seducing us into what could be.
Even when you think about being politically active and what that means, it's like, are you a poll worker? Are you registering people to vote?
Yes.
Are you trying to talk to your grandparents about being racist? Like there is, it's an entire lifestyle. It's not like a singular act, and there's not a template for it. You have to figure out how it works for you, how you want to move in the world, and how you're most powerful and effective. Because like, I don't want to give up my art. I would like to save America, but I can't. So, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do what I can through my art, and I know we all have, special talents, and we'll utilize those.
Well, and honestly, for myself, a lot of times if I see clothed figures in artwork, I'm going to assign a cast. Class, all of these different aspects of society are going to come up. The nudity actually helps alleviate the need to do that for me.
It takes it out of a certain time period, and like you said, social signifiers are mostly gone. And also people are really present when you don't have anything to hide behind. I mean, I have reasons that I started working with nudes, probably because I felt like nudity was forbidden, and people had a lot of what I felt like were wrong-headed ideas about nudity, and I wanted to turn that around. And also like making these depictions of people where they're nude, but they're friendly, and you also get a sense of them, because it is a portraiture. It's not a nude study. It's a portrait of the person, and like you feel that person. You look in their eyes. You feel like you might have a chance to know them.
Yes. Yeah, what I was saying about your work is I often, and I'm sorry if I'm saying unpolitically correct things, but I'm very classical in my training, and so I don't like portraits from photographs. I think that when one paints a photograph, it looks frozen, and it looks like it's been devoid of the soul. And I can see, my mother's a portrait artist, I can see when she's painted it from life or when she's painted from a photograph. But when I look at Heyd's works, he re-infuses the soul into the pieces. And even though we're fixed in time in our gestures, there's a depth in our eyes, just like you said, in our movements, you really, it's like you bring us back to life. And I want to speak on the nude. It's interesting. One of the things I'm fascinated with is that I wanted to do a TED talk about, and one part of that was posing for you, because I actually love all nudes, academic nudes, all of it, and I love to draw it, and I feel much more comfortable. I don't go to nudist beach, but I feel more comfortable when I think I was thinking about this just sitting there, is if I'm in front of an artist that's drawing me, then I'm in a transcendent moment. And there's this moment of exchange. We're in that liminal space where there's this fertility that's just growing, and then there's love that pours out of me, because I think of I know that posing is hard work, and places in your body hurt that
hard,
you would never think that it, and there's a gratitude in my heart for the vulnerability of the person that's posing, for what's being shared, because there is, obviously we're breathing each other's skin particles, but then there's also just the fact that they're showing all of their vulnerability, and that's also the power of your work, is by showing all of these what different body parts look like, where we have, where we have, H spots, or all of that, we all have that, and it's just, it's revolutionary to do that, and I think it's so socially healing. It's healing.
And it's very like, we don't see it in advertising. We don't see it on magazine covers. Like, people aren't allowed to have texture. Like, skin has to be perfect, and it's not. And then there's that domino effect of like, okay, everybody feels shitty because you don't look like this, and nor do the people in these photos.
Right.
So.
Yes, the many layers that you very subtly are practicing social practice on.
Yeah, unconsciously.
Well, and with your emphasis in 19th century work, could you talk a little bit with Heyd about social practice work in that context, from that point of view?
Yes, so it's, I can say, I don't know if this is, again, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but this is where I'll go.
These are all just prompts. Talk about whatever.
Yes, it's deeply, it's fascinating. The more I read all these images that used to make me dream, and how deeply racist they are. I was just looking up one of my favorite paintings. It's called The Burial of Atala, and it's by a book by Chateaubriand, and it's actually supposed to be taking place in Florida. And he clearly has never been to Florida, doesn't know. And it's about this. Anyway, I won't go. Look it up. It's René Atala Chateaubriand.
Maybe we can do a link in the video.
Yes, I was just thinking, I can't. But I'm still. My point is, what's my point? Is, even though this is what I teach, I've realized that in my teaching, my purpose of teaching art history, I actually, the more I teach, the less I understand what it is, what art history is. Mm-hmm. But my point is to show different bodies, tell different stories, no matter how uncomfortable they are, tell them. And so I do that with my love for female nudes. When I taught at Eastfield, the whole class just assumed that I'm gay because I like female nudes. Which brings me to one of my favorites, when you were interviewed on, it was called New Gay TV, about your drawing boobs, your word. I like breasts. I like the word breast. But
I could see. Sorry.
Do you want to tell the story in the closet?
I think what you're talking about is when I was a kid, I drew compulsively. I wasn't good at drawing, and I love naked ladies. And I would go into a clothes closet and go behind the clothes and draw all over the walls. And my mom was like, I had to repaint that closet every 3 months. It was just full of naked ladies. And yeah. So we were talking about like Estelle's student thinking that she was gay because she had loved breasts, and I was like, yeah, I loved breasts too. Like, who wouldn't love breasts? It's like, it's where, you know, your first food comes from. It's like, they're beautiful, you know, like, yeah. But I'm gay. Real gay.
And you still love it.
Right?
And this is where the
Yeah.
transcendent takes place, right?
Yeah.
This is the absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into talking. That's a great segue into talking about
something
this.
else.
Well, no. I want to lead us into this other area. Refers to all of these podcasts I listen to all the time, but another one of my favorite podcasts is To the Best of Our Knowledge, and it was the Generation Witch episode, and Steve Paulson was interviewing Chris Gosden, who's the author of Magic, a History. And he's also a professor at Oxford in archaeology. And at one point in the conversation, Chris Gosden said, if you are not allowing yourself to have at least a little bit of a belief in magic, religion, and science, all three, you are not allowing yourself to fully be a human being. And it makes me think about you're being drawn to the sacred in the everyday, the erotic in the everyday, and of course that's happening in your work. And I would love for us to go ahead and go in this direction, since it seems like this is where we're heading.
Three ways of knowing again?
Yes, magic, religion, and science.
Anything?
Well, or we can go down the sacred in the everyday, the erotic in the everyday, these powers that we have, the magic, also with your practice of drawing from religious practices, cults, things like this to inspire your work.
Yeah, I didn't grow up going to art museums. I grew up on a farm in Louisiana, and my family didn't do things like go to museums. We went to rodeos. So, but we did also go to mass every Sunday. Yeah,
Yes.
right, yeah. And yeah, you can probably see it in here a little bit too. But yeah, what is this? So my first exposure to like imagery, powerful imagery, were saints and a crucifix and things like that. So I haven't been a practicing Catholic since I was about 25. I tried to hang in there, but I was just too at odds with the church. But I didn't want the church to dictate what kind of relationship I could have with God. And it was hard to say become Buddhist or so. I was like I'm just so ingrained in my Catholicism, and that is my background, and I'm gonna try to make it work for me. And I think in some ways I still do, but how you might parlay that religious experience into making work. Well, I was going to say in the secular world, but I feel like I can't escape it. Even if I was go hard against the Vatican, it's I still believe stuff. I mean, I don't buy it hook, line, and sinker, but I don't know if it's just in my fiber as a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, there's such a ritual to it.
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
ritualistic. All three of us come from Catholic backgrounds.
Yeah.
So that ritualistic part of it.
I forgot about that.
It never leaves you.
Yeah.
The Catholic guilt, it's with you.
Well, I'm a diehard Jungian, so I believe in the collective unconscious. I believe that these symbols they're in us, and we use them all the time, but we don't know that we're using them. And in teaching survey classes, I'm realizing, when the pagan deities how they've been destroyed and then almost forgotten, not quite, I'm trying to or I'm not the only one. A lot of people are helping resurrect, but then they've just gotten transformed.
Yes.
And then those same images are reused, and then we try to erase the past, but it doesn't. It's not never fully erased. And lately, I've been really interested in Hermes Trismegistus, and I won't go into a long thing, but I've started looking for the caduceus. It's everywhere. Everywhere. We use it all the time. So if you think about it, it's our, I don't know if you thought about this when you did this, but it's our DNA, right? It's those two snakes come in, and it looks like the DNA. They hold our chakras together and all sorts of things, but then we use it in science, but it's as metaphysical as can be, as pagan as can be. And so I think those simple, I go to Unitarian church today, but the Catholicism is so strong in me, and one of the reasons I love teaching at UD is that there is a place for the mystery there. And I can sit in front of a painting and just start crying in class, and students are like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. And so for me, that's where I can't, but I like the part of the Catholicism where the paganism and the Catholicism just kind of come together in Ireland or in all those, just because I think that there is an animism still there, and it's the book of nature with the romantics, and Father McGuire from UD said to me, "You're not a pantheist, you're a panentheist." And I said, "What is that?" I had to look it up. A panentheist sees that you see the evidence of the transcendent in everything. It's not that it's limited to that. It's just there's an evidence of that. So I see the evidence of the transcendent in art, in speech, in words, and even I was listening to James Baldwin and the rhythm of his voice. It gets to the point that I don't even care what he's saying. I'm just like,
I know.
And then this takes us back to the metaphysical, to the vibration. That's all that we are, is vibration. And look at what you have around here. We have vibrations, and it's fun and it's colorful. But what do we have? We have your rodeo symbol. We have the most ancient symbol of power, the bull we see in the earliest cultures, and then the Minotaur, and then of course phalluses, everywhere phalluses, lovely
What?
phalluses.
I love that you asked. I don't know if you're conscious of this, because of taking a design direction, because there is so much that I'm unconscious of, and I try to embrace that as well as part of, say, magic or trusting your instinct about things, because I'm not necessarily learned. I'm very curious, but I'm also a lazy scholar. So there are things that just come to me. It's like how we've discovered people have different ways of learning, and I think that I employ that in my artwork, is that I kind of embrace not knowing things and letting things come to me, and I'm grateful for those things. I think about art making as it is my spiritual practice. Yes. Also I'm goofing off and I'm wasting time, and it's not like I'm a monk. I mean, I feel like Tucker in the other room, like he has an approach to his work that is very like meditative, and of course I try to isolate myself for a long period of time so that I can get into what I call my own head about things. But yeah, some of it is conscious, a lot of it is unconscious. Like I don't even know how I make work sometimes. I mean, I'm there, but I don't know how I can't. Somebody asked me if I teach them to draw, and I said absolutely not. Like I wasn't interested in it. I didn't feel like I could sort of parlay what I do into someone else. I was like, well, you don't have my life experience, so you can't do what I do. I don't want you to. You probably don't want to do what I do.
Can you tell me again, I know I've asked several times, but how you felt about the human figure, how you came back to the human figure?
Oh, yeah, we did discuss this, is that, well, Estelle kind of gave me some insight, because I was going back to being like a freshman in college, and taking a figure drawing class by this my instructor approached it in this really like kind of black and white, almost mathematical way. and it wasn't interesting to me, and I didn't feel like I made interesting drawings, and I wasn't interested in the figure forever. And I went back and I thought about this professor who's probably, passed by now and won't see this, but I can only speculate what his life was like, because I remember he was a white guy who lived with his mom and wasn't married, and he wore foundation makeup, and he wasn't Nelly, but it's like, whoa, okay, so he was so, in my opinion, again, just speculating, he was so detached from his own body, from his own sexuality. Of course he wasn't going to imbue these figures with anything, because it's like a bowl of fruit, just draw it and get it right, So I did not work with the figure for easily 15 years after that, just wasn't interested in it. And then I was doing some stage design for this troupe of jugglers called the Flaming Idiots. And they were wonderful guys, and we had a lot of fun. And they wanted to do these circus kind of portraits of them doing like levitating or juggling fire. And I did caricatures of them. And I got excited about the figure again, because I knew I could get a likeness. And I didn't really know I had that within me so much. And that's really what started it. Again, in my career, or if you call it that, in my life, I've taken a lot of design jobs, and you just make a living however you can. So I've worked in film and television and advertising, whatever. I've mowed grass, lots of glamorous jobs. So sorry, go back to.
Figure.
Yeah, sorry.
It became interesting again. Flaming Idiots.
Yeah. But that there were times when I would really kind of resent the time I had to spend away from my studio, because I'd be like, I'm doing this bullshit commercial that I do not care about, but I need the money and it supports my studio, so I'm going to do it. But then I'd use some material, like, I needed a rusty chain, so I'd use a certain chemical compound to rust something really quickly. And then I was like, hey, this is fascinating. And then I'd use it in some aspect of my work, So just to tell younger artists, it's not lost. If you have to take detours, you can still gather your tools about you. And so if I had not worked in stage design and with this troupe of jugglers, I might not be working figuratively now, which is something I love. It's I think I'll always work figuratively because the way it connects me to other people and allows me access, and I get to look at them in a really deep way, in society, if I look at you too long, you're going to look away. But if it's my job to draw you, I can look at you for hours. Yeah. And I love it. And when you were actually talking about working from photographs and how transcending the 2D object, I feel like I transport, when I am working with a model, I relive conversations, and I'm very present in that projection into that moment. So yeah.
Well,
Ta-da.
Well, I don't want us to finish up without bringing into the talk the signage. While you were bringing up the fact that you worked in advertising and did some and design and things of that nature, it made me think of sign painting, and your signs are really great. The balance of the letters are great. The messaging is really great, and of course, so this, I believe, ties in everything we've been talking about with the social practice work, allowing all the magic, religion, science, everything to come together in the work. Can y'all talk a little bit about the signage that has been included, the text that's been included in the work?
Well, one of my favorites is not here, and tell me if I'm misquoting. is homophobes can't stop thinking about dick. Am I saying
Yeah,
it correctly?
you're right.
I want to
You're
say that
right.
out loud because I think that it is beautiful. I'll say it again. Homophobes can't stop thinking about dick. I think that is so true, and it's
Mike Pence.
I don't thank you for that. And then just the whole have you misquoted Jesus today is my other favorite. And I was reading this morning in the Cult of the what is it called? Yeah, Phallus Worship book that talked about how the ancient Hebrews actually worshipped phalluses, and it gives descriptions. And that's not something. And so I'm thinking there's so much. And listening to, I mean, when you talk about the occult or you work on, you bring in these elements, these visual elements of the occult, and I'm thinking you're tapping into something, you don't know what it is, but you're pulling it forward, and I'm thinking, yes, amen, keep doing it, and because I think it needs to rise up.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to say.
And I think we have a lot more power that we've given to institutions that is within us if we're just kind of in touch with it. But it's much easier to look for that type of validation from somebody that's more learned or has more affirmations. So, we touched on something just briefly about like the Catholic Church co-opting like ancient religions and bringing that in. And I know, Andrea, with your work, like you're looking at a lot of, say, like African religions, voodoo, and
animism. It's animism, right? Would that be where? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, another thing that connects all three of us is French ancestry, and Heyd and I. Heyd is actually from Lake Charles, Louisiana, which is where my dad is from, and I've been to Paris a couple of times and used to be obsessed with Paris, and so my heritage includes being a Creole background. And so I have wanted to go back and find out a way to reconcile my Catholic upbringing.
Right.
And Marie Laveau, I've done a lot of reading about her through Zora Neale Hurston's Mules and Men. There's a collection of essays in this book my father loaned to me called Creole. There's an essay that's completely about Marie Laveau. And she was a person that incorporated all of this into her work. She was active in the 18th century and in New Orleans. And so, yeah, the work that you do makes me think about the possibility of doing that. Reconciling it, incorporating this upbringing into my work, and allowing it to help me continue the cycle of love, not let it have me internalizing things that are not good.
Yeah. When people talk about the opposite of love is not hate, the opposite of love is indifference. And like when you're challenging these systems because you feel like there's still something there, and like you lied to me, and I'm gonna make like we're gonna deal with this. We're gonna talk about this, Dad. And Dad would be the church in this.
Well, it also brings to mind the fact that in the readings that I'm doing by a lot of women, another book by. I believe her name is Denise Alvarado. I may be getting her name wrong. I hope I'm not. But
you can include links and such.
The book is The Magic of Marie Laveau, and in most of the reading that I'm doing, it's by women, and they talk about the fact that oral histories are left out of the conversation, and that's where you're going to find a lot of the incorporation of practices with herbs and spices and things. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that Estelle is into that. And the magic of the past, the religion, sciences, all of these things, the women, the fact that indigenous communities, Africa, the Americas, all over, had places in their societies for people, two spirits, gender, across the whole spectrums, social preference across all spectrums. Some readings from Audre Lorde that I've done, she talked about this type of thing. So
I love her so much.
yes, oh my goodness. We love the Lord.
Yeah.
With an E.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
I told Andrea when she was sending me James Baldwin links, and I said, James Baldwin is my Jesus. Like,
yes, and that link in particular, it's so funny. He was talking about that, as y'all can see me here, like, okay, I'm gonna moderate and give some topics. And at the beginning of that talk, he was like, I have a topic here today. He's like, I don't want to insult the fact that I have this topic, but you could tell he's reluctant, but it's a good way to open up conversation about just a myriad of things. And also how he was reluctant because he's like, well, I'm not the one to try and tell people what the responsibility of artists are. I'm just trying to do the best I can, and I hope I'm making the world a better place. And I feel that is what comes through in your work as well. You're not trying to shove anything down anyone's throats, but you are very much living and breathing and practicing being yourself so that we can be ourselves.
You obviously enjoyed large-scale work or doing at that scale.
I do.
Did you pull that from your experience with the stage
Yep.
set design?
I did. I mean, that was, as a young artist, you're you have space limitations, you have monetary limitations, and so there were a lot of times when I'd have a job, it's like, oh man, I can paint like this 40-foot wide thing, and it was exciting because who can do that? So yeah, so much of this is, I guess I became acquainted with this scale through theater.
Very
Yeah,
good. I
yeah.
guess that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
It's evident.
Yeah.
Because the scales are very different.
Yes.
And the line work, the quality of the line work is very different too.
Yes, and oddly, sometimes when working on a larger scale, you think like it's a bigger risk or there's more at stake, and sometimes there's so much freedom to working large. It'll surprise you, Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Ludwig.
I was thinking about earlier, looking at the people I know in these pictures.
Yeah.
Are these like sometimes photographs for you, markers of experience?
Absolutely. Like it's kind of like almost like a diaristic quality, because I'll be looking through old boxes of drawings and going like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in 12 years or something. So they kind of mark my relationships and people that I've had around. Like I haven't seen you in like 8 years or something. Yeah.
And I thought, I just saw you yesterday. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we didn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in my heart.
Yeah. So very much works like that, like a journal.
We had a question over in this area and then one here.
I was going to say, so many times when I'm looking at figurative work, especially in contemporary art, I think about the artist as wanting to be confrontational when there's
Mhm.
nudity or anything that's explicit. that there's this confrontation that they want you to be engaged with. And I was wondering how you felt about that, or because I don't find these pieces, these drawings, to be confrontational. They're very, well, they're playful.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, you know, there's no. So how do you have that kind of dialogue with yourself about?
That is very conscious, I would say, like my approach to the figure. I kind of want you to talk about this too, if you have any ideas about it. But when I knew I wanted to work with the figure and with the nude, I understood that, like, as a queer person, as somebody that's always wanting to talk about sex, and like sometimes other people aren't wanting to talk about it, that like there had to be a, like, almost like a coaxing or like an easy entry into the work, so that it wasn't off-putting. It wasn't like, but I have had experiences where I look at these almost like Rorschach tests, because I know people have responses to them sometimes, and I'll chuckle and I'll be like, that's not about me, that's about you. You know, like once my grandmother came into my studio and she looked around quickly and she covered her head and she ran out of the studio. And I went outside and I said, what are you doing? What was that? And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, you covered your head and you ran out. She goes, I did not. I was like, yeah, that was like 15 seconds ago. Yeah, I realize how powerful like that nudity is and sexuality is, and even like confronting the human figure is, because of responses like that. And so, yeah, I don't want the work to be off-putting or confrontational, but I do want it to be direct and clear and acknowledge all that power. But yeah, like even the diminutive proportions were calculated to kind of like soften, like, what am I looking at? And is this person threatening, or is this person vulnerable? Or is this person, it's something I think about too in the construction. But this body of work too began 20 years ago. So there were things I put into place like early on, and then it was just there. I like my approach to. So as someone that studied the figure, you don't have to.
No,
but
I
if
do
you
know.
have
I
any
got so much to say. I do.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
No, there's two things. Well, I spent about an hour and a half yesterday watching an interview or certain things about porn addiction, which was fascinating, because guess what? It's not about sex. And then also,
right.
I have I have 3 children, and 2 of which are teenagers. So that's on my mind a lot. And then they're taking a sex ed class. That's what it's not. It's at my church, and it's actually, again, not about sex. I'm listening to the students I've gone through and come back and talk about it. It's about giving them ownership of their own body, of what they want, what they don't want, and so it's fascinating because we, in this American culture, and the French, I'm not even going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole, because it is not what we think it is. I think the French talk about it less. And it's a whole. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But in the word that you on your site, you talk about, I call it binary thinking. That's the word you use? Okay, binary thinking. We have abstinence, and then we've got porn on one side, and then there's all of this space in the center, and that's where what I call the liminal erotic. And yes, Audre Lorde is. Here, just please, just so it's this idea of that pregnant space, and thank you for I can't say her name.
Toyin
Ojih Odutola. She found the word I couldn't think of for years, which is ma, and it's She was like, "That's the one." So it's in You want to talk about that? You know better. This is all about calligraphy. Do you want to explain, Ma?
No, it's
And-
okay.
I know. This is what you do. So in Japanese calligraphy, and when you dip your brush, I don't know what I'm doing. You dip your brush. Do you want to say it, please? Because I'm not.
Oh no, because I have not studied Japanese calligraphy
I have
extensively. I have only,
If you don't have a doctorate in
I've
Japanese
gone down.
calligraphy, you need to stop talking right now, Andrea,
Well, when I-
and let an expert. Is there an expert in the house that has studied Japanese?
I took one class when I was the registrar at the Crow Collection.
Oh, okay.
And so I do understand that it involves more of whole arm,
Gesture.
forearm, wrist action in this way, as opposed
To
to down
this
here with the European
Yeah.
hands, which is what I've mostly
What
studied.
you-
So I do not want to muddle up.
Okay, so the idea is when you're looking at a work of calligraphy, or where you dip the brush in the ink, and where the ink runs out, and there's the blank, the ink runs out, and there's the space. The idea is the space is as important as, so the negative space is as important as the positive space.
Uh-huh.
And it's the idea of this pregnant space. And that's when I think of the liminal erotic, or when I think about my uterus, or I think it's this idea, or your hara, it's this idea that we have this space that we can see as empty, or we can see it as it's waiting to be filled. Now I completely lost track of what we're talking about, that's right, sex. Okay, so the idea is that for me it's not about, your works are not about, we see genitals and we see nudity and we see my lovely dark circles or my breasts that have nursed 3 kids, but what we see is the intimacy, is what emanates.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you're right, if we stop at it's a naked body, but then of course we have our, and for me that's what I call the liminal erotic, is that
Mm-hmm.
space in between, when as an artist you're making a work and you don't know if you're either looking at the subject or you're looking at your paper, or the way that your hand, your wrist moves, and it just, you're in that flow. That's that liminal erotic, and erotic would be the first creation. And there's certain creation stories where it's eros, that is just pure creation. Liminal is the space in between, and then the same concept of ma is that it is that space of quiet, that space of is just as important as the full. And to finish on this wonderful explanation of porn addiction, it was fascinating because it has nothing to do with porn. It has to do with having the immediate release. So just getting boredom out of the way, and so how to treat that. The therapist was saying he talked about Qigong, he talked about meditation, he talked about slowing down. And I think that in that same podcast, she talks about the pregnancy of the quiet. And so I think that these works, you make us stop and get quiet. And then we kind of pour into the figures, and their intimacy pours into us. And then I'm hoping, this is what I try to do in classes, that I'm hoping that it allows people to feel more, to love themselves better. If we love ourselves better, then we can love one another better, and then we help heal ourselves and everyone else. So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Good job.
Do we have time for a couple more questions?
A couple more questions.
I know there's one here, and then we'll go back to this area. There's one in this area, and then we'll go back.
I thank you guys so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation to listen to. I feel like I've learned a lot. That was very impactful. I wanted to ask a little bit, Heyd, about these moments of repetition and symmetry that
Mhm.
I'm seeing a lot in this work, sort of in a different way than I had seen it
Slushy.
before.
Uh-huh.
And also about your choice with this color palette too.
Yeah.
Like I'm really would love to know more about your decision making with the
Yeah.
color palette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with the repetition and the pattern. And again, like consciously, unconsciously, growing up Catholic, you say prayers and repetition, and you say a rosary, you say novenas, and it's kind of funny. I don't know if I'd be thinking about that today if we hadn't prefaced some of this with religious practice. But yeah, I think it has to do with like getting into a zone, getting like there's that J.D. Salinger short story. I'm not sure what it's called, but they talk about like the simple prayer that is just, I think it's Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, and you just repeat it, and you try to get to a place to where you're not thinking about it, you're just saying it. It's just in there, like a heartbeat.
Like a mantra.
Yeah. But I do think that there's something deep within us about pattern and repetition. Like you say, it's in our DNA, but it's in our heartbeat, it's in our breathing, it's in things we won't know about, Color is, I've heard these gendered ideas about how men are good at form, women are good at color. And since I, kind of walk a line in terms of gender, I feel like I can do both, But yeah, like color is very exciting to me, and discordant color is really exciting to me. Someone was asking me about the banners in here and the bunting that is sort of like, we're accustomed to seeing this in red, white, and blue. And I love taking a form that is familiar and queering it, as people might say, because it makes you look at it a little bit differently. And in some of what I make, I want to scare people a little bit. It's like if you're unsettled by seeing something familiar that's changed a little bit, if that is really like upsetting to you, good. Maybe you need to be upset, because if you're so locked into these patterns of doing things, of knowing what things are, because I also think like not knowing in terms of religion, like sometimes if people are too ready to give you a definitive answer, they're wrong, because it's also so limiting. So so color, I enjoy playing with color, and sometimes it's about what's available. Sometimes it's trying to find like some tension, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
My question is a bit of a follow-up from that question
Yeah.
about your process. Because from past shows, I've seen everything from these, extravaganza, interactive, multimedia, productions to like one of the shows here to the Galveston show with these large scale, and then this on paper, and I don't want to say one-dimensional because you have so many dimensions.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's a lot is going on, but in a more serene way, or a more still or thoughtful way. And I was wondering, is there a practical reason? Is there a place maybe where you're at? You say you make unconscious decisions. This is like something different than, the past few shows I've seen.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, the title of the show led part of the show, and that this idea of color, pattern, propaganda, like that you might be lulled into this sensual experience with like, oh, these are beautiful. Oh, that's nice. Like, I feel good about this. It's like, oh, there's a message too. Well, what? They're trying to get in my head, and again, just saying like sex is everything, everywhere. Sex is everything. Like information is pushed at us all the time, even things that you think are benign. Like you're being, like the status quo is feeding you a line to follow. So I wanted to disrupt it, make you, well, who am I to make you question anything? But like, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of hard sitting in quarantine, sitting during this pandemic, like being so angry or disturbed or shocked or disappointed by like what you see other people doing, and especially in the name of Christianity. And yeah, I just, you know, I felt like sometimes I'm just making some of these text pieces just because it's, what I want to say is fuck you, but I was like, well, that's not super articulate, so try to be a little more clever with it.
Right, and then the other thing
Stop trying to kill us.
The thing that's interesting is the word propaganda I just found this year, looking it up. It actually was begun by the Catholic Church. It was actually it was launched. It was the propagation of the faith, and it was in the 1600s. It was Pope Urban the something. I wrote it down. I can't remember. But anyway, so I thought it was fascinating because when I think of propaganda, I think I start talking about it with ancient Rome, and I talk about Augustus of Prima Porta. But no, it was actually it's a Catholic thing. And so I like that you used it. It fits very well.
Yeah.
That Jesus wept. I see that.
Yeah. And Estelle informed me of that origin because I wasn't aware.
I think I saw a hand back in this corner.
Thank you all for staying this long too. Like, I hope it's not too uncomfortable.
Did I miss it? Is there any one more question? No?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we're gonna
That's it.
call time.
Thank you all.